everyone. Welcome. We are so excited to have you on our Where Ace Takes You event tonight. And this will actually be the final event in our series, and it's been awesome to see many of you attending a few of these throughout the spring. We have some ACE graduates and a current ACE ambassador that will be speaking to their experiences, both kind of leading them to ACE, what the experience was like, maybe advice that they have for each of you. And then we will allow some time at the end for any questions that you have too. And when we get to that point, Joe, who works in our team, will share some instructions on the best way to ask those questions. So with that, I will invite our panelists to just first introduce themselves. So for our graduates, if you just want to share a little bit about where you went to college, what you studied, what your ACE placement was, and maybe just a brief word about what you're doing now. And then Serena, if you want to talk a little bit about your experience at BC, both academically, things you've been involved with, and anything that you want to share about your role as an ambassador. So Sean, would you mind starting? And then we'll go to Molly and Serena.
Of course. Yeah, my name's Sean Murray. I'm originally from Manhattan, Illinois, and then I went to Villanova University where I studied econ and accounting. And while I was there, I was also an ACE ambassador, just like Serena is now. My ACE placement was in New Orleans, so I teach eighth grade math. I taught for my 2 years in ACE eighth grade math at Academy of Our Lady, which is in the West Bank. And right now, I'm still doing that for a third year.
Hi everyone, I'm Molly Howell. I'm originally from Indianapolis and now I'm back in Indianapolis. I went to Notre Dame for undergrad and then I was an ACE 23. I was placed in Tampa, Florida and taught middle school math and science at St. Joseph's. Since my time in ACE, I continued teaching for a little bit and now I'm in education consulting.
Hi everyone, I'm Serena Palillo. I'm currently an undergrad at Boston College. I'm majoring in English, secondary education, and applied psych. Some of the things I'm involved in here have been being an RA. I've also done some service through like local communities and international. And I'm really excited to tell you all that I'm going to Oakland, California, this upcoming school year.
Awesome. That's very exciting news and very recent news too. So to start off our conversation, would just love to learn more about each of your paths to ACE. So maybe if you want to share a little bit about kind of what drew you to ACE, were there any particular experiences that you had in college? And these can be experiences related, to leadership roles or mentorship roles, but feel free to draw on other things that come to mind. So just talk us through like what ultimately helped you make this decision that ACE was the right fit for you. And maybe we'll just keep with that same order. I find that's a little bit helpful with Zoom these days.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity at Villanova to be involved in a lot of different things that I loved with residence life, with our admissions office, and with Special Olympics a lot towards the end. And I realized all those experiences at Villanova were about facilitating experiences for others. So I really liked the community and the mission focus of everything I was involved in. So it was on my mind of maybe doing something outside of business early on. And then during my sophomore year a current ACE teacher at the time, Mary Grace, who was in Chicago, she was a Villanova alum, came to campus and put in like a Wildcat newsletter, which is that that goes out every day that no one read, but I read, saying that it would be an ACE grad in the campus ministry building, and I talked to her, and that's the first time I've heard of ACE. And when I looked into it, every component of ACE, I loved. The more I looked into it, the more I talked to Mary Grace. It was service, it was graduate school, it was teaching, and it was everything I thought I would want. I didn't even know I wanted at the time. So I liked it, and I said, something I might do, as I kept it in the back of my mind. And then as I went through my college experience, getting more involved in those organizations, I eventually realized in a service experience with Habitat for Humanity that, no, this is something I want to do. And I had the courage to be like, no, this isn't like a plan B or something I might do if I can't figure out what I want to do. This is what I want to do, and having the confidence to do that. So all those experiences, Special Olympics, about helping people become fully alive, everyone who's involved with it in residence life, helping students with their adjustment. I saw a lot of connections to teaching, helping students be the best they could be in the classroom, and I still see that now. The biggest thing that stuck out for me for ACE was how all in it was. So it's 2 years, and everyone is just fully committed to teaching, committed to their students and their community. And ACE is fully committed to you with the masters and preparing you to be your best. So I just thought it would be a great fit, and had the opportunity to do it and loved it.
I was an ACE intern during my senior year of undergrad. So I actually said yes to ACE at I think the end of my junior year. And kind of what led to that was I didn't know what I wanted to do post grad. I studied history and math, which is a unique combination, and just wasn't sure what I was going to do with that. But I had attended Catholic school since kindergarten, and I loved school. I was so thankful for my Catholic education. And so learning about ACE, it just seemed to click the more I learned about it. The people I met on campus, both other interns as well as just the team in the office, I just started to feel like kind of that calling of like, it's faith based. It's an opportunity for me to grow in my faith. It's an opportunity for me to learn a lot more about myself. Also, had just always done service working with children and was really excited for that. And then I got middle school and was like, oh my goodness, what are we about to do? But also was like the best placement ever because I love middle schoolers. And so that is really what drove it. And then also, I'd been involved in different roles in undergrad and leadership. I was involved with the shirt committee, which, if you're a Notre Dame student, you might know about the shirt project. And so I was involved with that and then was president my senior year. And so I was kind of excited to continue a role that you're a leader. So with teaching, like from day one in the classroom, like you're in charge, you're a leader, and that's a lot of responsibility. That's good and that's bad. As you're navigating it all for the first time, but I was excited for that challenge.
And so I also said yes my junior year, but I think I really said yes my freshman year. So going back to like what made me want to do ACE, my freshman year I took this awesome class, and it was a philosophy and theology class that was rooted in community service. So if any of you go to BC, like Pulse, and it was such an incredible opportunity for me to be a leader in a community center in Boston. And I had so much fulfillment. I knew my whole life that I wanted to be a teacher, but there was something about this service opportunity, being in the city, working with students who were mostly from the Catholic schools nearby. Like, I just felt such a calling to it. So my freshman year, when it was ending, I had like a major identity crisis. I did not know what I wanted to do because I knew I wanted to teach, but now I love service. I love Catholic education. Like, I was having such an identity crisis. So naturally, I talked to my professor and I was like, Professor, what should I do? And he was like, I had a few students do this ACE program. Like, you might want to look into it. So that May, my freshman year, I wrote down on an index card that like my North Star, my goal would be this ACE program. And so I didn't do much research into it though. I was just very committed from the start. And so when I got to my junior year, I really like it really started to be a reality. And at that time, I accumulated a bunch of different experiences in leadership and service that really solidified that this was my path. Some of which being an RA for now 3 years in a row, working as a mentor for high school students in Ohio and helping them find their purpose in this like really cool purpose curriculum thing that BC does. And so there's a lot of different opportunities that continue to solidify that I really was called to this mission of leadership and mentorship for students. But it really was that first May in my freshman year that I said yes, and I'm still saying yes. And so the more I learned about it, the more I loved it.
That's really helpful. Thank you all for sharing those insights. So, for Sean and Molly, I'd love to hear how some of these experiences that you mentioned, and you were doing this a little bit already, but like, how did they really impact or inform the work that you did with your students, or maybe how did they impact the ways that you kind of engage the school community or your home community with ACE? What were some of those connections that you were able to make from your time in college? And then for you, Serena, obviously you're still in this period of preparing for this experience. What are you really kind of hoping for, or maybe some of the things that you mentioned? How do you see that possibly transferring into the work that you're going to do in a high school English classroom? So maybe Sean, if you don't mind starting us off again.
Yeah, of course. So I think what really prepared me the most is so I was very fortunate to do things that I really cared about, and even with the realm of leadership and mentorship. I remember early on, my freshman year, a professor told me like the leaders are the people who care the most and have the most passion about it. They're the first ones there setting up the meeting and the ones sweeping the floor after, and it's not really about the role. And that's something I kept in mind in my 4 years at Villanova. So I just followed what I was very passionate about because I knew, looking back in ACE, because when you're in ACE, what you're doing is you're doing something you're very passionate about with your students. ACE is a lot of work, and the only way you can do it is if you care a lot about your students and your school. So being involved with that, kind of regardless of the role. So I had opportunities at the missions and residence life, but the biggest one that really stood out for me that grew over my time at Villanova was the Special Olympics. So Villanova is fortunate to run a very large Special Olympics student-run festival every year. And I progressively get more involved with it, not because of like the positions or the titles, because I really cared about it. So didn't have too many opportunities my freshman year and my sophomore year. Applied a couple of things, didn't get it, but like just showed up the entire weekend and volunteered, and really just immersed myself in the culture and the community of it. And then from there, got progressively more involved. And all of that gave me uh, an idea of what it's like just to truly care and not care about like what your role is. Because that's what a lot of teaching is. Like you're a teacher and that's your role, but you have a lot of different roles in your classroom, your school community. You have to play a part of a role of a larger team as your school and be part of that organization. So my time, Special Olympics particularly, was intentionality with planning and with relationships. So at Special Olympics, we were planning, an event for 9 months, and it was a one weekend festival. Teaching, you're doing an event every day for 9 months, so there's a slight difference, but it's the same intentionality. And though it's hard to do that, your first month because there's so much overwhelming you, or it can feel that way at times. You still bring that intentionality in small ways. Eventually, you can be very intentional with your entire classroom. So that helped me with the relationship with community. My own community, I was fortunate with 10 different people during my time in ACE, and having experiencing working with different people made the joys of community that much richer. Being able to have intentional relationships with everyone in my community. And overall, especially my second year in ACE, even my third year since I'm still at my school, just being a part of a team and organization. That's what a school is, it's a team and organization. And having experiences contributing how to move your team and organization forward and how making it more fully alive has helped a lot. And I've had the opportunity to contribute not just in my classroom, but across the eighth grade, in ways across the entire school, which has been great. And that all comes from because I'm like confident in my ability to be a part of a team and contribute, which was great. So the small things like Excel that I learned from business school that helps a lot of teachers out, but also like when we had a senior parade at the end of last year during the pandemic, like being able to build a 40-foot balloon arch the day of because you happened to do that before. So if you involve with things you care about, you're going to learn random little skills that will help you. And what your school really wants is an authentic and committed to you. So I think the best way to prepare for ACE and the best way to be successful in ACE is just be committed and authentic in what you're doing, regardless of what the role is. And following that passion will help you be a better teacher in your classroom. That's what your students, your principal, and your families will want.
That's really well said, and I would echo, like, for me, the biggest part was being present, because, like, I had 6 preps teaching middle school, and so it's hard to prepare for that every single day perfectly, and that definitely didn't happen, and so going like, "That's okay," especially coming from undergrad where I was, like, so, like, disciplined in my studies where and I could kind of be in control of that, going, okay, I don't have control every day about having the perfect lesson. I'm learning this. And so just giving myself that grace and I'm a better teacher if I'm present and patient and pay attention to the students in front of me than if I have like the perfect lesson start to finish. And so I think going into it with that mindset um, is just a way to make things easier for yourself and for your students. I think too, one thing, so in undergrad, in addition to the shirt, I was involved in dorm life. I was involved in like a mentorship program for high school students in the area called Reading for Life. And so from all of that, I just took away like it really is about that connection with the people you're with, being present with them, being intentional, like bringing your best self every day, even if you're stressed or tired or other things are going on. Was definitely the biggest takeaway I think that I had and lesson I learned about myself was like it's just all about what you can bring that day and you can't necessarily stress about what happened in the last class or what's going to happen this afternoon.
Awesome. That was very insightful. So thank you, Molly. I think for me, something that I'm really excited to prepare for is the relationships. I think I've seen relationships play out many different ways in my undergrad experience, from being an RA and having residents knock on my door at 3 a.m., to being a mentor to the high school seniors in Ohio and having Zoom calls and talking about the stresses of prom and driving license and all that stuff. And so I've seen these different mentoring relationships in many different ways and I've experienced them in different ways. And I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is experiencing it as a teacher. Like being the leader of a classroom is different than being a leader in a res hall and different than being a leader in a Zoom call, but it's still the same skills. And so I'm really excited for the challenges that it's going to offer me and the strengths that I'm going to gain from these experiences, because for me, I think the relationship aspect is the most important aspect of teaching. I think really caring for the community and really building the community is something that I want to be most attentive to when I start this journey next year or in a few months. And so I think that that's definitely something that I'm really going to focus on and really try to prepare as best I can for.
Thank you. And I think, all different experiences, but that same kind of core piece of being present, being intentional, really kind of thinking about the relationships that you're building. So really appreciate all of those connections. And I think I'll just ask one final question before we open up for Q&A from the group. Since each of you, did make this early commitment, and so you're deciding kind of right around the time that some people on the call will be deciding if they're going to commit to 2 years of ACE. What was it about kind of that early decision that you were drawn to? Like, how did you kind of go about this discernment where you knew you'll have this whole extra year kind of connected to either the interns or the ambassadors, and then have these 2 years post grad? So, what kind of impacted your decision to commit earlier? And was there anything that was kind of surprising or that you really appreciated about having that extra year tied to the ACE community?
Uh, yeah, so when I committed a year early, like part of the reason it was awesome because I at that point knew after talking to Mary Grace and looking at ACE that I really loved ACE, wanted to do it, and it was able to be to commit early and be locked in and know go through my senior year being committed to ACE was awesome. But it's a big decision to make early. And when I think of when I made all the big decisions in my life, I've thought of like for each path I could have gone, like worst case scenario, best case scenario, what will I not regret no matter what happens? Uh, and that helps you figure out what matters most. And I knew that ACE, I wouldn't regret doing that because though coming a year early, you have you go a whole year having no idea where ACE would physically take you, but you knew who ACE would make you, and I knew that ACE would take me to a real place with real people doing real meaningful work, and I knew that would make me a better person. So that's what really helped me make the decision. And even though like you didn't know geography or what I was teaching or what grade level, what content, like that didn't really matter because I'd be with people, great people, doing meaningful work, and it was great knowing that. And having that year, it was being an ambassador, being able to go to the institute that we had that first summer, and just feeling the energy of ACE and being able to experience it, just kind of affirmed that decision and made me a better ambassador for the program, and even made me a better person with preparing it. So I remember when we were on campus that summer, it was probably week 6 or 7 of the ACE summer. We were just there for 2 days. And like I remember at the end of day 2, I realized these people have been doing this for 6 or 7 weeks and they have so much energy and excitement. And it's like I'm in Disney for a day. So it was really cool to see that spirit and the faith, the community, the commitment that everyone had. And it's helped me to find ways to cultivate that in myself, to be ready to be part of that team. So it was a humbling experience to realize I had the opportunity to be a part of this. And it really just put in perspective, the commitment and growth, because you can read stuff on websites, you can watch videos and watch panels, but ultimately the people are really what make the connections, and being able to meet some of those people early on just makes you a better person because they're what's going to make you a better day, a better person. Your first day of ACE and your last day when you graduate. It's all about the people in your school, your community, and the ACE.
I think I just knew I almost couldn't go wrong. Even if like at the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm not meant to be a teacher. Like at the very least, I spent 2 years like learning a lot about myself and growing in my faith, building relationships with amazing people, um, and like being challenged to grow in a really positive way. And so it made me too realize like how important education is. I always knew it was, and I valued my own so much. But like now, the work that I do now, like I'm constantly thinking of like, what does this mean for a teacher? What does this mean for a student? What does this mean for an administrator? Like I have that lens and that vantage point that I'll never lose from the time in the classroom. And because now the work I do is more like systems level for schools, and I'm just so thankful. Like I know what it's like to be a teacher because of it. I also think too, it's 2 years and that goes by like in the blink of an eye. Like the days are long, of course, when you're teaching, and sometimes the weeks are even longer. But then all of a sudden it's been your first year and then it's your second year and so on. And the way it will challenge you and you will grow. I think it's hard to look back on that and say like it wasn't a good decision, for anyone. And I was thankful being an intern. I got to meet so many of the other interns and get close to them that year. And then I ended up being placed in Tampa with one of them. And I was just so thankful, like, to have that friendship with him going forward. And he is an incredible person. And so that was invaluable for me too. Just knowing, okay, I'm going to be in this new place, totally displaced, about to start a new job. Is going to be overwhelming. And so that relationship from the onset was really great.
Awesome. I'm gonna echo a lot of what Sean said. Again, for me, it really was all about the relationships. Even though I was committed, again, I say my freshman year, I did not really know about the ambassador position until I actually met and sat with the ambassadors. And like I'll always remember it. Like we sat, we got coffee, and it was one of the best conversations of my life. Like we just kept going on and on and on. Like 2 hours basically passed, and I wanted to keep talking. And so I felt like we had so many shared values and so many shared goals. And so really hearing about a program that matched everything that I loved and everything that I cared about, and hearing someone else share that was just one of the coolest experiences. So at the end of the conversation, when he said, there's this ambassador program, like, did you ever think about applying? I was like, yes. I was like, I'm ready. I'm in. I really do say yes a lot. Very committed early on. And so when I applied, I wanted to do it because I wanted to have those same conversations that he was able to have as an ambassador. I honestly have. This year has been so much fun. I've met with so many different people in so many different places on campus and Zoom calls. And I feel like I've really gotten to know such a greater part of my campus just having these coffee chats and having these Zoom calls and these programs. And so I really am so happy I was an ambassador because it just made me not even only build relationships with the ACE community, but with my own community and the shared like value of ACE and the values that ACE offers. So it's been a really, really great experience, and I'm so thankful to have it.
Thank you so much. And I have one final question for all of our panelists. What advice would you give to a student who is currently discerning a path with ACE?
So I'll take that first. I think I kind of answered a little earlier about think about what matters most to you, and then put the rest aside. And because really, when you make decisions, I remember I went to Villanova, which is Augustinian, my freshman seminar class about Saint Augustine. It's all about priorities and how you order things, and ultimately, what do you prioritize most? And if it's something that ACE provides, then pursue that. And also, just talk to people and connect to people. There's tons of people who have done ACE, who are in ACE, who are familiar with ACE that would love to share their experience. And I think when you talk to people, you realize like this resonates with me, or maybe you realize maybe this is great, but it's something I'm not interested in. So what matters most, and then talking to people, I think is the best way to go about it.
I definitely encourage everyone, talk to your families or just others that you admire and kind of what they have done and what influenced their decision to take a new job or start a new grad program or things like that. I think too, like prayer, if that's the way you make decisions, like can never go wrong, because it is a faith-based program, and it is whether you seek it out or not, like whether you're Catholic or not, it's going to be there throughout the 2 years, and kind of be a way for you to grow, because teaching is so humbling, and you realize you can't do everything and you can't do everything perfectly. And so like that's where grace comes in, or that's where it comes in too. And for me, it was so rewarding, kind of addressing that last question as well. It's like being a Catholic school where like everyone you work with, whether they are Catholic or not, like is showing up to do the same thing. And those are amazing coworkers to have for 2 years as you're kind of navigating your first job, out of undergrad. So yeah, I think talk to your people, pray, and then know at the end of the day, even if teaching isn't necessarily your path, you will learn so much about yourself that's going to serve you in whatever you do.
I think for me, my best advice would be to just be excited. I remember where I was when I was a junior in college and super, super scared about what was going to happen next. And my biggest advice would be to kind of try to let go of that fear, because no matter where you end up, if it is with ACE or if it's some other path, you're in the right place. And so having that faith in God and having that belief that you are going to end up where you're supposed to, and just being excited about that, being excited about that unknown is what I would honestly strongly recommend. Because I was terrified, and I now looking back, I wish I was as excited as I am right now talking to you. So try to be excited.
That's perfect. Thanks, Serena. Thank you, Molly and Sean. If you can find your emojis in the reactions button, feel free to send up a clap or confetti for our panelists for sharing their experiences. Just so many valuable insights, and I think really helpful, especially like I said, as a number of people here are currently working through the ambassador and intern applications, and those, as a reminder, are due on March 30th. So definitely feel free to let me know, or Mike, or Joe, or Alec, or anyone on our team. If you have any questions about the process, we're always happy to talk those through. And for those that are thinking about the ambassador, you have the ACE Ambassador Institute to look forward to, an experience of Disneyland, in the words of Sean Murray. So we're going to get that on some promotional materials, I think. But anyway, it's been so awesome to see many of you on our programs weekly. Just a reminder, we do have the recordings posted on our Where ACE Takes You page, and Joe just chatted that in. So if you want to watch any of the videos from the past couple weeks, each session has had a different focus and has had different graduates or current ambassadors or interns. But that's all we have for tonight. So thank you so much again, and hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.